Yeah, hello guys. In previous class, we have discussed about list of possible options which are belongs to DDL auto property, right? So we have seen create only, drop, validate, update, and create, drop, and none. So all the features we have seen in last class. So today we are going to discuss about generated value, right? At the rate generated value. So let me explain you. Go to your entity class. So here employee entity. So there is a primary key, right? Integer ID. So employee ID is a primary key. So currently this is auto generated value, right? At the rate generated value. So what does it mean? So whenever you are trying to create the employee, your primary key will generate automatically. So you don't need to pass employee ID when you are creating the employee, right? So Hibernate will generate the primary key for your employee ID. So now here employee to generate the primary key, there is a set of possible options are available. So we can discuss those things now. So how we can generate the primary keys? There are possible options, one of five. So you can see by marking at the rate ID field with at the rate generated value, we are now enabling ID generation. What does it mean? So the moment you declare at the rate generated value and at the rate ID, so your entity class primary key object is going to create. Your primary key values are going to insert. So here, which means that persistence layer will generate an ID value for us and handle those auto increment. So one like whenever you're inserting employee, so let me show you. Go to database. How many employees are there currently? We have only one employee, Sachin Tendulkar. So only one, we have one employee, right? So let me delete existing record. So now we don't have any records in database, right? So as of now, we have given at the rate generated value. So generated value, we'll see what kind of primary key it is generated. So let me start the server. Server started successfully. So let me send the request with the help of Talent API. So what is the API to create a employee? So let me go to REST controller and copy the create employee API. Okay, so now create employee. So you don't need to pass ID, right? So it will generate automatically. Even if you pass also, no problem. So it will auto generate your primary key. So let me send the request. So you can see it starts with the 2. So when it is auto, so let me show you. Refresh. So there is a primary key generated, right? Number 2. So now, so you may have doubts why it is inserting number 2. So it will take a previous sequence. For example, if you see employee, uh, the moment Hibernate generates the employee table, right? So in the sequence, there is a employee sequence. So based on the sequence, your primary key is going to generate auto increment by one by one like that. So to make you understand easily, so what I will do, I will delete this database. Why? Because previous values are already stored, right? So I want to show you from scratch how IDs are going to generate. OIDB. So your database ready. Right now you don't have any tables. So let me stop the server and start the server. So right now you don't have any table in the database. So now let me start the server. Yeah, once you start the server, new table is created in database. You can go and check. Just refresh object browser and check in your SQL log. So there is a employee table is created. So this table is created by newly by Hibernate, right? So now let me send the request. So I send the request to create the employee. So what is that ID generated? So by default, whenever you are newly inserting in the table, so if you are trying to insert new record in the table, so that time it will sequence will starts from 1. So if you create, I will send another request. So 3 or 4 requests I will send. So total 4 records I have inserted, you can see. So total 4 records you have inserted. So we got the response, right? So let me go to SQL log and refresh your table. So we have inserted 4 records. So now if you go and check, so the entity class object, you can see here, the entity class object is having at the rate generated value. So this is the annotation is creating auto generating your primary key. So to generate the primary key, so there is a set of algorithms. There are set of algorithms. You can call it as the algorithms or generation strategies. We can call algorithms or generation strategies. So there are auto, table, sequence, identity, UID. So these 5 algorithms we can use to generate primary keys in your entities. So if you don't select any one of these, so what we have given as of now to our employee table, employee entity at the rate generated value. So by default, whenever you are specifying at the rate generated value, by default, the strategy type will be auto. If you don't define any strategy type as part of at the rate generated value, then the default algorithm is auto. So the moment you declare at the rate generated value, so the default algorithm is being used to insert the to generate the primary key is auto. So let's discuss about auto. So I have shared this document to you, right? So you can go through it. You can easily understand. So in this strategy, this lets the JPA implementer, that means Hibernate, to choose the best strategy based on the dialect file, dialect based on the database dialect. So in your Hibernate, there is a SQL dialect file is there. So based on that, so it will generate based on your database which you are using, relational database. For example, if you are using MySQL or Oracle or something, whichever, which are all the relational database which you are using, based on that it will generate the primary key. So whenever you are not sure which ID generation strategy to use, just declare at the rate generated value. So for example, you don't have any idea to generate what kind of primary key I have to use, what kind of format ID I need to insert into primary key. So that time if you don't know, then you can use it simply at the rate generated value. So it will internally uses auto generation type algorithm to generate your primary key. So now I just shown you, right? So whenever I'm trying to create the employee, so it is storing 1 2 3 4. So now if you start the server and let me start the server again, you'll see what will happen. I just stopped the server. Now again I started the server. So how many records are there? 4. So what is the last primary key? Is 4, right? So now if you go and if you go to your REST client and send the request to create the employee, if you see the ID is 52. If you refresh your table, the ID starts from 52. So the algorithm which we are used by default, generated value will use at the rate strategy algorithm. So auto in the sense you cannot, whenever you are restarting the server, so you cannot tell like what is the next sequence number in your what is the next primary key which is going to insert in your database table. So it will not insert as a sequential, or if your server is started mode, even if you insert 100 records, it will insert in same sequential order. Once the moment you stop the server, again if you restart, again it will increase as 50 or 51 auto increment like that. So it is, you cannot uh, how can say, you cannot rely on a primary key, which primary key is going to generate. So if you see here, auto increment sequence, see sequence, it is generated 151 something like that. So auto in the sense it will pick a random value and it will generate the your primary key whenever you restart the server. So that's how auto strategy type algorithm will helpful for us. So if you don't know what kind of primary key you are going to store, then you can simply use at the rate generation type will be auto. Okay, so now second algorithm, identity algorithm. So identity algorithm, it will create the primary key based on the mostly auto increment logic. Auto increment logic in the sense, let me show you. Same 1, 2, 3, 4. It will start from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So before that, let me show you one more time this auto generation algorithm. What will happen if I stop the server again? Let's see third time what kind of primary key is going to store in your database. Server started successfully. So now, so what is the last primary key here in your database? 52. So still I am using at the rate generated value annotation. So it will use internally auto increment strategy to generate our primary key. So let me send the request. So if you check the response, it is generated 102. So you got my point, right? Randomly, it will increase 50. It will increase by 50. Okay, so 52, after that again 102. Similarly, you cannot rely on that. So it will auto generate your primary key whenever you are restarting the server. So this is how auto increment algorithm will useful for to generate primary key in your database. So now let's talk. So how we can define? So if you want to declare auto also, so there is a strategy attribute as part of generated value annotation. There is a attribute called strategy to define your respective algorithm to generate primary key. So if you control space, if you no need to remember. So everything, what are the attributes it has. So you just need to control space. It will show you available strategies. Just select strategy. Strategy is equal and then control space. So it will show you all the algorithm. You can see auto. If you control space, if you do auto, identity, sequence, table, UID. So total 5 types of algorithms are available. So by default, generation type, strategy type will be auto. So you got to know, right? So how auto algorithm will perform to insert primary key in database. So now I want to use identity algorithm. So let me use identity algorithm. So newly we are using identity algorithm, right? What is the last sequence? 102. What is the last sequence number? 102, right? So let me insert the another record in database. You can see 500. Why could not execute statement? Field ID does not Yeah, default value. You can see could not execute statement, field ID, default value. So whenever you are trying to insert using identity, so you should have default value. It should in database. Let me open the database and let me show you the error again. So what kind of strategy we are using? Generation type identity algorithm. So the moment you use generation type identity algorithm in your database, so your primary key is there, right? Alter table, you can see. So in your right click on the table and just click on alter table so that you can see your table definition, right? So table definition you can see. So primary key, so there is no default value is being provided here. You can see there is no default value provided here. So if you go and check, whenever you are trying to use identity algorithm, if you are trying to insert the employee, so it is not inserting. Why? Because you can see could not execute. Let me copy the error and open notepad plus plus, control N, control V. So now you can see could not execute statement, field ID does not have default value. So whenever you are using identity algorithm to generate primary key, so your database should have default value or it should have auto increment option. So how we can define your default value? Let me change your alter your table like auto increment. You can just click on auto increment. There is an option called auto increments. So while creating the table, you can give your primary key generation type as a auto increment. The moment you declare auto increment, just click on save button. Table altered successfully. So now your table is it is saying auto increment, right? So it will increase from 1, 0 plus 1, 1 plus 2, 2 plus 1, 3, 3 plus 1, 4, 4 plus 1, 5. So like that, your primary key will insert based on whenever you are giving identity algorithm. So now let me go and insert the table. So as of now, open the table data definition. So open the table. What is the last primary keys? 102. So let me send the request to create the employee. You can see employee is inserted. It will take +1. So whatever primary key is present in your database, so it will auto increment by +1. So 102. So sir 103. So next, whenever you are trying to insert one more record, so you can see response I got 104. If you send one more request, your response will got 105. So what will happen if there is no records in database? So that time it will start from 1. So let me show you how it is. So let me delete all the records. Now also 105, right? I think 106 it will start because it's already 105. Let me try. So delete all the records. Instead of that, select all. You can see there is an option called left hand side. Select the checkbox. You can delete all the rows at a time. So let me try to insert the new record now. So I just send the request and you can see 106 because previous one is 105. So that is maintained by your schema. Actually, so your database table already it is versioning based on the previous primary key. It will auto increment based on that your previous primary key. So if there is no data available in your database, so last record which you have deleted 150, sorry 106, right? 105 in your sequence 102, this is your next value. So this will be based on your algorithm which we are used. Based on that only this employee sequence is going to use. You no need to bother about it. So just concentrate on 106, right? So now if you remove the database, you will get to know it will start from 0 plus 1. So I will show you that how we can show. You have to remove the database. Actually, you have to delete the database, and then you can confirm to check whether it will start from 1 or not. If it is any newly created record, if you insert in your database, let me create a table employee DB. Create it. So now to generate the table, so we need to restart the server, right? So I just restarted server. You can go and refresh your object repository. Refresh object browser. You can see there is a table is created, right? So now this is fresh table. So it doesn't have any sequence. Earlier we haven't inserted any data. This is newly created database. So there is no previous sequence here. So whenever you are using identity algorithm, it will starts from 0 plus 1 and plus 2 plus 3 like that. So let me insert new record from REST client, send request, and you can see it will start from 1, refresh. So what is the primary key? 1. So now again, I will create few more records, 2, 3, 4, 5. So total 5 records I have inserted. You can open SQL log and refresh your repository. So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So total 5 records are inserted. How it is generating primary key? In sequential order. It will starts from 0 plus 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what will happen if I stop the server? Next, if I stop the server and then if I start the server again, so what is the what is the primary key is going to insert in our database? So whenever you are using identity algorithm, it will take plus one auto increment. So plus one in the sense it will auto increment your previous value, previous primary key value plus one it will do, and it will auto increment your value. So 5. Now it will. I have restarted the server. So now let me send the request. So you can see 6. It is started inserting data with number 6, employee number 6. Similarly, if you send one more request, number 7. So like this increment algorithm will work. So what is the set of rules are defined to specify identity algorithm? What is that? So whenever you are using identity algorithm to generate your primary key value, make sure your database should have auto increment alter table. You should your primary key should have option. Your primary key you have to create with auto increment feature. So then only your identity algorithm is going to insert your primary key by adding plus 1. Okay, so now 0 plus 1. So now you got right. So similarly rest of that, so now you can go through its strategies there. So similarly you can see sequence is there. So sequences has sequence also same. It will do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 only, but it has some performance issue. Why performance issue? So in sequence algorithm, if you use whenever during the bulk generation, for example, you are trying to insert batch processing or something like that. If thousands of records you are going to insert at a time, that time the sequence algorithm, if you use for example, if you are going to insert 100 records, so each record will insert one after the other. How it will insert each so one after the other. So sequence 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 like that. So there is a performance issue. Because of that, we should not use sequence actually in bulk generation, bulk insertion, database operation. Whenever you are performing bulk insertion database operation, so sequence algorithm is having performance issue, and it will generate same 1, 2, 3. So you want to show or continue? So same as is only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 only, but only it will use get the next value from the database. Whatever in database previous primary key is there, it will also insert in sequential order. And there is another uh, generation type table. So this table, if you specify your primary key generation with the help of table generation type strategy type, so it will all internally it will use again a sequence algorithm only, and it is also having some sequential or it is also having performance issue. Why? Because it will use pessimistic logs in the sense, for example, say 100 records, if you are going to insert one after the other. For example, one guy, two people are trying to insert at a time. Two people are trying to create the employee details at a time. So that time your data is not going to insert. First, for example, one user one is trying to insert employee, user 2 trying to insert employee. So only one user can insert the data. At that time it will log that transaction. The moment it log the transaction, the second request will be on hold. So once that the previous one will complete, so second one will start the executing the transaction. So that is the meaning of table. So you can use table algorithm also. And there is another strategy called UUID. So this is frequently used now. So in current market, most of the people will use sequence currently primary key in RESTful web services. We are going to use UUID algorithm. So UUID algorithm, in the sense, it is not a number type, it is string type only. So you can see there is an example also given. It is a string type. Whenever you are declaring UUID, so your primary key will insert as a string type. That let me show you how, or you can try by yourself. Let me show you. Remaining you can try. I already mentioned in the document. Same way those algorithms will work. So now let me try UUID. If you give UUID, now try to insert the record in database. No response. Why? So let me check. It's not throwing any exception. Let me stop the server and start the server. And this is string type, right? So actually, yeah, I got the problem why it is not inserting. Because so what is the primary key type we are taking? Integer type, right? So this algorithm will useful for only string type. This algorithm will use for only string type. So if you can declare your primary key as a string, and then it will insert your primary key. So how it is going to insert? So let me so you can, let me show you one example. So return type will be string. This is most important algorithm. So many people will ask in interviews. So earlier only before Spring Boot and all, so only we have four algorithms, up to four algorithms only. This UUID is newly introduced in Spring JPI, new version of JPI. So you can see now I took it as a string type. Now let me try to restart the server. You can see alter table, because existing table is altered with string type database. So let me refresh the object repository, and you can check. So alter table, refresh, still it is database we have take, it is taking as a int. So length will be 11. So let me try inserting the database. What will happen if you insert the record? So you can see first name string, last name string. Sorry, first name Sachin Tendulkar. So what is the primary key? Let me refresh the table. You can see how it is generated in sequential. This is how it will insert whenever you are giving strategy type UUID string type character. You can see string type auto generation. So this is how it will insert. So if you insert another record, so just refresh your database. See, this is how your primary key is going to generate by using UUID. This is actually not readable format. So many people, if they want to insert the your primary key in secure way, so they will give your primary key is like this, so that no one cannot understand and no one cannot hack your primary key like that. So this is the now so many people are generating primary key by using UUID algorithm instead of generating 1 2 3 4 5 6 one random string which is having sequence of characters, and it is generated by UUID algorithm as a string type primary key. So this is most important actually. Most of the people is asking in interview. So remaining you can try guys, remaining sequence and table you can try yourself. So now I am going to continue to insert records in database persist by with the help of JPA. So what is our intention earlier? So let me change our primary key UUID to primary key. Okay, so default strategy I have given identity algorithm. And now, so how total earlier what kind of project we are going to create? So we are going to create the project to insert data with the help of JPA repository with MySQL database. So far we have discussed basic concepts related to JPA, right? Java Persistence API. So how to create a primary key, how to define your entity table, entity class, and how you can generate the table. So now here, so far we are auto generating the table, right? Whenever you restart the server, if there is no table available in database, it will create your employee table, right? So now I don't want to create this employee table dynamically. So what you have to do, go to your application.properties and disable this auto generation, none. So disable this auto generation. So if you disable this auto generation, so what will happen? So yeah, whenever you restart the server, so let me copy the structure of employee creation. So after that I will remove. So if you put drop here, what will happen? So your table is going to remove, drop and create, right? Drop if table employee exists, then again it will generate create employee. So it is dropped successfully. So drop in the sense it will drop completely. So in your database you cannot find employee table because I have given option as a drop. So if you give update, so what will happen? So it will create the create table statement. So I just want to copy this actually. So why? Because so I am going to show you without this property how we are going to connect with our database table. So I am doing now drop again. So table is dropped successfully. So now refresh your object repository. So there is no table available. So I am going to disable this property. How you can disable this property? By commenting it or by specifying none. You can comment it out or you can specify none. So what does it mean? So it will not, whenever you are restarting the server, whenever you are starting the server, your Hibernate is not going to generate table in database. So Hibernate is not going to generate table in your database. Let me start the server. So now you can see there is no table available in database, only empty database available. So there is no tables are available, empty database. There is no tables available in your database now. So now what I have done, I have disabled this property, DDL auto property. By default, it is disabled. So I am disabling by using none is equal to none. So it will disable. Two ways you can disable. If you don't specify this property, so by default it is auto disabled. If this property is provided in your application.properties file, you have to specify with none. Either specifying like this or delete completely. So these two ways you can disable auto generation auto generating the table by using JPA. So I am giving as a none. So now or else delete completely. I don't want to auto generate. Okay. So now let me start the server. What will happen now? So there is no table in database. This time what is going to happen? You guys have to practice like this, guys. Don't blindly remember I have to give at the rate entity. I have to give at the rate table like that. So many people are by head actually. So don't by head. So you have to plug and play like this. Whenever you are learning some concept, you have to plug and play like this. You have to understand the concept and then you have to if you do like this right in future you will never forget the concept actually. If you practice like this you will never forget the concept. So in most of the institutes, if you observe, so they will teach directly a employee table and at the rate employee and by specifying the column name, then they will tell directly at the rate table and then we can specify the table name. So many people knows that, but what will happen if I remove entity? What will happen if I remove negative way? You have to practice. What will happen if I disable DDL auto property? What will happen if we remove if I don't specify auto generation this property? So what will happen if I don't have table in database? There is no table in database. If I start the server, what will happen in background? Is there any exception is going to throw or our table is going to create? So like this, if you practice, you will never forget the concept actually. Okay. So now let me stop the server. Let me start again. So what will let's see whether our application will work or not. So our database is not having any tables. So your application started successfully. What does it mean? So even if you don't specify auto DDL equal to auto property in your application.properties, you are not enabled auto generation table property, right? So your application will start successfully. Your application will not give any issues. So now what will happen now? In this case, what will happen? So your application not thrown exception. When it will throw exception, let's see. Now I will go to your database and check in your employee database table, refresh. Is there any table generated? No, there is no table created here, right? So now if you try to insert the record, let's see what will happen. See, internal server error could not execute statement employee DB. So it is trying to insert the record. So let me copy. You can click on this copy. There is a below there is a copy option. If you copy, so you can copy this response everything. Just go to your notepad and paste it. So it is clearly saying could not execute statement. It is trying to insert the what it is trying to insert employee details. See, there is a query is insert into employee. So whenever save method is being executed, there is a statement is generated by JPA. What is that statement? Insert into employee. So this time JPA is not able to find employee table. You can see table employee DB dot employee does not exist. So if you don't specify um, DDL auto property in your properties file, so Hibernate is not going to generate table by default. So you have in this case, what you have to do, you have to create the table in database by executing the script. That's it. Just copy the script and go to your database SQL yoke and paste it and execute the create statement. So you can see a table is created now. So just right click in object repository. So you can see there is a employee table created. So whenever you are not specifying, whenever you there is no data, guys, I just refreshed it. So just now table is created, right? So earlier it is cached, right? That's the reason it is showing like this. You can see I just refreshed it. I just created the new table. So whenever you are not specifying DDL auto property in application or properties file, so your table Hibernate is not going to create the table in database. You have to you have to create the table manually by executing the create table employee statement. So this is how you can create the table. This is the syntax. You can practice, guys. If you don't know the SQL syntax, just learn it. How to write the create statement. Create query to insert create the table, create table employee and ID and respective column names you have to specify, and at the end you have to specify the primary. So now I have created the table. So now I will insert the record. So it will not throw any exception. You can see employee details are inserted successfully. So far, so if you go and check in your database table, so table names are inserted. See how it is inserted: first underscore name, last underscore name, mobile underscore name. So whenever I'm creating the table, that time I have given table name as first underscore name on last underscore name. So if you see here, there is a camel case. First, in the first name, F is the small letter and N will be name. So whenever your property specifying in camel case order, so this we can call it as a camel case. So camel case in the sense any word which you are starting with any property you are defining with small letter, and in middle words you will start with capital letter is called camel case. So whenever a property you declared like this in your data, it will Hibernate always refer your column name as first underscore name, and this one last underscore name, and this one email. So whichever is having single word, that will refer as it. Whenever you have camel case, so your Hibernate always try to refer the column name as mobile underscore number. You can see if mobile number, mobile underscore number. If other than that, let's see what will happen. So other than that, if you want to create by your own any in other format, so what you have to do, you can specify a column name also. So each property level you can specify column name as well. So at the rate column, so if you specify at the rate column, whatever database table you have created, the column names which you have given, you have to declare those same name. So here ID. So similarly, so there is attribute called name. So there is attribute column name. So at the rate column name is equal to ID. Similarly, if you give different name, it will not, it will throw exception. Let me try. So what is the column now here? Primary key column is ID, right? So what I will do, I will try to give here employee ID. I am giving column name as employee ID or employee underscore ID. So I have given, sorry, this is the first name, right? So let me give here primary key ID, right? So employee underscore ID. So your column name, it will refer for employee underscore ID. So, but whenever you are created, you have created with ID. But in entity, you have given column name as employee underscore ID. Now we will see what will happen if you send the request. So like this, you have to practice, guys, so that you can understand easily concept 2 and 3. If you see there is a ID equal to 3. So whenever you are trying to insert, still it is inserting. But here you have given primary key name as a employee underscore ID. How it is inserting? Let's see now. Refresh your database table. Still it is working. Why? Because you can see. Uh, let me open the console. So that column is auto generate, right? Auto generate. We are not going to insert. That is going to auto generated. This we will insert this primary key by hibernate. Why? Because we have specified generated value. That's the reason we are not getting any error. So now let me try to create here in the red column specify employee. Whenever you try to read, that time you will get error again. So here I will give first name instead of first name. I will give F name. F underscore name. So now let me try to insert the data now. So you can see internal server error. So whenever you are specifying this is auto, this is actually this data is going to generated by Hibernate. So that's the reason it is not throwing any exception. So when you are trying to insert, the value is auto generated. So that's the reason because of based on the primary key which is defined. So it has already ID, right? ID declare it as ID primary key. Since this ID is matching in database, it is inserting the primary key. That's the reason you did not get exception here. So if you check here what is the property name? First name. And what you have again F underscore name. This F underscore name is going to insert by client. Nothing but whenever I am sending the request, I am sending the details to insert the first name, right? So that time your Hibernate will look for F underscore name as a column name to insert your first name. So this time it will not work. So what is the error? You can see. So like this, you have to learn, guys. If you learn like this, only initially, whenever you are practicing with the JPA, initially you practice like this, so that you can each and every concept you can understand. See, insert into employee is failed, could not execute statement. So let me copy the response and copy the actually we no need to I no need to show this much in depth actually, but why I am teaching because yeah, I can show you just specify at the red column name, whatever column name it will present, it will refer that column. I can tell and you can finish the class. But why I'm teaching in this way? So developer always, whenever you are learning initially, developer always should learn like this. What will happen if I remove this? What will happen if there is a without same column name? What will happen if I declare like this? So you have to practice negative way. So what will happen? That will fit in your mind. Okay, if I give like this primary key, it will not throw exception. Why? Because this is generated by Hibernate. Is generated by primary key generated by Hibernate. So that's the reason it is matching with this ID and it is inserting the record. But the values which we are inserting by the client. So if that column name is not matched into the your database column, it is throwing exception, so that you will never forget this concept if you learn like this, guys. You have to practice in this way. Okay, so in interview, uh, most of the people I ask the question actually whenever I'm taking interviews in the company. So I will give like this employee underscore ID and then employee underscore ID. So auto generation will identity. If property name will be ID, I will write the table column as a ID. I will ask him. So when I'm trying to insert, my entity is having employee underscore ID as a column name, and my database is having as a ID. So whenever I'm trying to insert the record, is there any issue will come or it will insert the record? So most of the people will answer like it will throw exceptions or why? Because here you have declared it as employee underscore ID. So in your table, it has simple ID column name. So everybody will tell blindly. So they will tell. So application is going to throw exception. So that is not correct way. So you have to understand the concept. This primary key is generated by Hibernate. So the property which you have specified here, it will check first whether this property is matched with your database column or not. whenever Hibernate is going to insert the database, first it will check whether this property is matched within your database column or not. So if it is matching, then it will try to insert the record. If it is not matching, then it will throw the exception. It will look for employee underscore ID. So you have to learn like this in depth. So plug and play. So you have to learn. This is how you have to learn, guys. Okay. So now I have given what I have given. So first underscore name. So in this case, what happened? I have given a column name as employee ID. So still my data is inserted in the database. What is the column? It is ID. So still it is inserted in DB. So why? Because that is auto generation by Hibernate. We are not inserting that. We are not generating the primary. So that is the most important concept. Or similarly, whatever user defined properties you are trying to insert, if the column name specifies uh, at the rate column annotation, whatever column name is there, so your Hibernate always looks that same column name in your database table. So this is how you have to learn, guys. Okay. So tomorrow I will, so now you got to know, right? So how to define entity. So what is the purpose of generated value? So we can define our custom user defined column name also, and you got to know how it Hyper JPI is inserting primary key in database. Different algorithms are there, so you can practice. I have shared the document. You can practice all the algorithms the way I have shown you, right? Practice same way so that you can easily understand. You will get the exceptions and you can resolve by yourself. Whenever exception comes, you should feel very happy because you are having an opportunity to fix your issue. You will get an opportunity to fix the issue. Fixing the issue in the sense you are identifying the issue. So that means you are going to learn uh, proper way. Okay. So this is how initially you have to learn, guys. So from tomorrow onwards, actually I will go a little bit fast. So I will try to insert how we are going to insert JPA, how we are going to fetch with the help of JPA repository, how we are going to update, how we are going to search employee and delete employee. I will show you. After that, there is most important concept, guys. Tomorrow don't miss the classes. Most important classes, most important interviews, and whenever you are working with JPA or Hibernate in real-time environment, most commonly used concept is mappings, associations, and relationships. We can call it as a relationship and mappings and associations. There is a most important concept: associations or mappings or relationship. So one to one to many to one, many to one. So far we are working with only one table, right? So simply we are working with one table is not going to help you. So in real-time environment, working with only one table is not going to help you to learn development skills. So you have to perform database operations with multiple tables. Okay, guys. So from tomorrow onwards, we are going to insert the data by using multiple tables. So how we are going to insert? So there is a four important concepts are there. So I will explain you that very easy way. You no need to by heart that. So many people are having still confusion. Even most experienced people also. For example, 4 years guy, 5 years guy, or 8 years guy. If you ask, can you define one to many relationship? Can you tell me one real time example? Still, some people have confusion. They will blindly so many people are learnt by heart the code actually. So I will teach you in very simple way how associations are going to declare, and how you are going to remember those associations, and how you are going to define a relationship between multiple tables. And this is most important concept. If you learn this concept association in the JPA, you are going to work in JPA. Any kind of requirement, if anyone gives you, you can work actually if you learn this concept. Okay, very most important concept. We can continue tomorrow, guys. Okay, thank you.